The tide of Islam seemed unstoppable in the 7th century. Like Syria, Egypt, and Palestine, the Sasanian Empire was rapidly overwhelmed by the Arab conquest. It was here, in the province of Khorasan, that Islam put down its first roots in Iran. Today, this golden dome is the beacon which draws the faithful to the sacred shrine of Mashhad. How did the religious zeal of the nomads achieve such a pervasive conversion? What is the spell of Islam?
Before the Arab conquest, the people of the plateau were part of a feudal society in which all owed obedience to the Sasanian court and king. But society had grown top-heavy, burdening the lower classes. Their ancient religion of Zoroastrianism gave some support, but the priests had grown arrogant. The coming of the Arabs only gradually changed Persian life. They had swept out of Arabia as the heirs of the Prophet Muhammad. They took Syria, Palestine, and Egypt, continuing west to Spain. To the east, an Arab force routed the huge imperial army, and the Sasanian Empire collapsed. In 661 AD, the Umayyad Empire was formed, with its capital at Damascus. Persia was only a distant province. To finance their empire, the Arabs designed their taxes to penalize non-Muslims. In western Persia, this pressure drove people from the country into the towns and into contact with the major Muslim garrisons. The appeal of Islam was both spiritual and material. As time went on, more and more Persians gave up their old religion for the new one. To become Muslim, a man had to state publicly his belief that Allah was the only true God and that Muhammad was his prophet. He had also to perform certain duties, ablutions, prayer, fasting, pilgrimage, and charity to help support his Muslim community. This film examines the life of one Muslim in Mashhad, Iran, whose way of life and beliefs emanate from principles set down more than 1300 years ago. His name is Muhammad Hassan Buyuki, but he is called Rezvan, meaning paradise. He is the chief calligrapher and designer at the holy shrine of Mashhad, where he has worked for nearly 40 years. From the age of 7, Rezvan developed his skills, but not until he was 40 did he feel he had mastered his art. Now he spends much of his time preparing decorations for the walls of the shrine and inscriptions in Arabic from the Quran. For Persian converts to Islam, both now and in the 7th century, Arabic has to be learnt for the recitation of prayers. The most important source of prayers and teachings is the Holy Quran. According to Muslim belief, it is the word of God revealed in Arabic to the Prophet Muhammad.
The angel Gabriel came to me while I was asleep and said, "Recite." I said, "What shall I recite?" He pressed me so tightly that I thought it was death. And then he let me go and said, "Recite. Recite in the name of the Lord."
The Quran was written down after the Prophet's death. It provides a code for living and sets out in detail the duties of Muslims. From the beginning, the act of copying the Quran has been a sign of piety and of devotion.
شروع می‌کنیم به اسم جلاله.
We start with the name of the Almighty, the name of the Almighty, who is the only God, whose being encompasses the whole of perfection.
جمیع صفات کمالیه است. و این الله
This Allah, which is the greatest name, possesses all the qualities of beauty, perfection, knowledge, power, and whatever else we can conceive of as the attributes of the Almighty. And all these attributes have been gathered in this name. And this word is the most high and the most mighty word which his creatures can use as a description of their God. When I write this word with my pen, all these emotions and feelings about God surge into my heart.
Islam is split between two major sects, the Sunnis and the Shia. Both, if they can, have to make the pilgrimage to Mecca. But the Shia have other shrines, like here at Mashhad. The division in Islam stems from the time of Muhammad. On his death, elected representatives established the line of Sunni caliphs. They were challenged by the Prophet's family and descendants, who are known by the Shia as imams. Many of these 12 imams were persecuted by the Sunnis to prevent them gaining political power. Today, the Shia still revive the memory of their martyrdom with scenes of passion and self-inflicted pain. Here at the shrine of Mashhad, Professor Jerry Clinton explains the Shia pilgrimage.
Well, Jerry, we're here in the innermost court leading into the sanctuary, the tomb of the 8th Imam, and
Yes.
for you and I, it's a great privilege to better walk and talk and film indeed here, but above all to experience this. For most people here in this court now, this would be a moment of supreme meaning, really, in their lives, wouldn't it, this pilgrimage?
It would indeed. Mashhad, that is the tomb of Imam Reza, is one of the two most important pilgrimage sites for Shiite Muslims. And to make the pilgrimage here is considered an act of extraordinary piety.
And when they come here, what do they do here, really? What do they come to do?
Well, what they come here to do is to make known to the Imam some needs that they have. They've suffered in some way. They pray for some member of their family who is sick. And what they do is enter the tomb chamber itself and clasp the screen around it and make a prayer to the Imam asking for his intercession on their behalf.
And what are they doing here? They're gathering here for
They're
a
gathering
ceremony?
here in preparation for the evening prayer. Many of them are in fact living here for the duration of the pilgrimage. We're standing in front of somebody who spread a blanket over there, and the various niches. One can see families that have brought their goods and are simply going to camp here for the duration of their pilgrimage.
And a holy man over there shaking water, was it over the group of Arabs there?
Yes.
They would be from the Gulf states?
Yes,
would
this
they?
is a group that has come from the Gulf states and possibly from Kuwait.
Now, we see people here from all over the world, don't we? I mean,
Yes.
we see from the Gulf states, we've just said Afghanistan and Pakistan
From
and Iraq.
Yes.
Now, if we were to ask any of those people, are you first Iraqi or Pakistani and second Muslim, or first Muslim and second, what would they say came first, do you think?
There's no question in my mind that they would say that they were Muslims first. I'm sure that they would be quick to identify themselves as member of a trucial state to be the Iraqis, but the first word would be, I'm a Muslim.
And they've come here and they're here celebrating in a way, aren't they? Because
Yes.
one of the things, and I'm sure the sounds around us bear witness to it too, is that this is not like a sort of very solemn occasion as we might think of a shrine or a pilgrimage in the West, is it? There's an atmosphere of a festival almost here too, isn't there?
Yes, there certainly is. Of course, what brings them here is often the need to express some heart-rending suffering that they've had. And yet, in having made the pilgrimage, they have achieved one of their deepest desires, and there's a joy in being able to come here. Also, they come here filled with hope. They believe that the Imam is going to be successful in interceding for them, and that they will achieve their desire as a result of their pilgrimage.
And what?
David, let me
Yeah.
if we can look over there, we can see that screen and see essentially what the people do when they enter the sanctuary, which is forbidden to non-Muslims. That is, that screen looks into the window, and the people have approached it, clasped it, are praying directly to the Imam, and you can see also that they're tying pieces of cloth or strings as visible witnesses that they have been there and expressed their desire to the Imam. Then they kiss it and return.
We'll try and go over there too if we can in a moment or two. But what does their religion give to the faithful, really, whom we see here? I mean, all this incredible cross-section of faces.
Yes.
I mean, does it bring them immense joy, their religion? Or is it a duty? Or is it a protection from misery and hunger? What would you say that Islam gives to most of the faithful around us?
Those things, surely. I think first that it gives guidance. It tells them how to conduct themselves in this life, in every aspect of their behavior. It gives them hope for a life, for a world, for paradise beyond this one that will be more satisfying than what they've had here. It gives them a sense of community, of belonging to a world far larger than themselves, of being at one with God's will.
The God that they are at one with, he is a more austere God than the God of the West, isn't he? He's less of the loving God and more of the austere God, would you say?
I'd say that he's the God of the West, less merry.
Less merry.
Yes. There you can see that screen is just covered with varicolored bits of cloth and locks.
People gathered here.
Yes.
All around us. It is an extraordinary atmosphere, isn't it?
It is. Most extraordinary. Electric and yet welcoming.
Imam Reza's shrine at Mashhad lies in the province of Khorasan, where the Arabs had first settled in Iran. It was from Khorasan also that the Abbasids marched west against Damascus about 750 AD. They established a pan-Islamic empire with its new capital at Baghdad, a focal point of Islam. The city itself was built on the Persian circular plan with a gate at each of the 4 compass points. The network of buildings round the walls housed the people, their workshops, their mosques. At the center was the Caliph, political and spiritual guardian of the Sunni Muslims. His election was nominal, for the caliphs assumed the trappings of Persian kingship, ruling with absolute power. People came to Baghdad from all over the empire. There were Turks, Indians, Abyssinians, Syrian Christians, and many Persians, all seeking to find their place among the dominant Arabs. City life was often luxurious, as celebrated in the Arabian Nights, set in the time of Harun al-Rashid. Secular knowledge was far in advance of the West. Greek, Indian, Persian scientific and philosophical works were translated into Arabic and carried through to Europe. These helped the revival of ancient learning in the West after the Dark Ages. The crafts also attained new finesse, and many of the craftsman's techniques have been passed down to the present day. The shrine at Mashhad, first begun in the 10th century, but built mainly in the last 500 years, is being restored under the artistic supervision of Mr. Rezvan. His drawing for a tile mosaic medallion containing the word Allah, similar to the Western W, is being marked up with colors. To handle their work and the word Allah itself, the craftsmen in Mr. Rezvan's workshop must have performed their ritual ablutions.
This work has a spiritual meaning. If we wanted it to have material meaning, there are other works which would bring more money. It should be eternal, and people will see it after our time.
Sections of the word are pasted on colored glazed tiles. Each is chipped off and filed down. Some panels in the shrine contain more than 100,000 such pieces. Even more vigorous than the artistic legacy of Baghdad was the continuing debate on Islamic theology. For the ordinary people, there was dilemma. Could they be non-Arab and Muslim together?
The faith had reached the point where it needed to be given the permanence of doctrine. Out of all of the polemic had to come an unshakable list of precepts that were to stand for all time. Islam needed the same kind of intellectual framework that the Greek philosophers and the Christian theologians had given to the West. So the sayings of Muhammad were gathered, assessed, and made definitive. It was out of this activity in Baghdad that came the definition which still stands today of what it means to be a Muslim.
A wife and her husband are equal in everything except that a wife should always obey her husband. If she doesn't please him in whatever work she does, then her husband will be angry, and God also will be angry and furious. A woman should not develop interest in any man other than her own husband. She should not reveal her face nor talk to strangers. The Holy Quran says, "Say to the believing women that they cast down their eyes and guard their private parts, and let them not stamp their feet, so that their hidden ornament may be known." Whatever is ordered that we should do, we obey and we carry out. And if we do not carry it out, it is our deficiency and not the deficiency of Islam itself. Some foods are forbidden by the Quran. Impure meat, blood, carrion, pork, lobster, and crab. When taking food, a person must eat with his right hand. He must wash first, then say, "In the name of God."
The children go shopping and the men to work, while the women stay at home. Within Islam, women have probably always been more restricted to the house. Mr. Rezvan has two wives living in separate houses. They meet frequently and always stay closely veiled, except when alone with immediate family. Between them, they have 6 sons and 4 daughters.
دیگه موز و پرتقال اینا گفتن ها؟
Islam regulates every activity, even trade.
نارنگی ها کیلو چنده؟ یه پاکت لاس کن 2 کیلویی.
A Muslim may not lend money and charge interest. A good Muslim pays, as charity, a specified part of his earnings as one of his 5 main duties.
We have a separate budget for each house, and it's costly. So we have to be very careful. But my husband is kind, and I'm very satisfied with him. The older wife gets upset. For these last 25 years, I've never talked to her in a loud voice. Whatever she says or does, I don't pay any attention.
It is God's plan for a woman to settle, to have children, and to care for them. But it is really difficult these days to bring them up as a good Muslim. We have to have great understanding, knowledge, and morality. My husband wrote the poem, Search for Knowledge, as would a man, but keep in yourself the qualities of a woman.
We are proud of our husband's work. It is such an art, and he is unique. It is the work of God.
When my husband took his second wife, I cried for 20 days. But what could I do? The Holy Quran says, a man may have 4 wives, and so I must accept it.
It is difficult. It is difficult. But it's the holy law.
Face on the floor, the medallion is ready for its armature.
We use the old methods of putting the calligraphy together. And if we don't follow the old system, then we will lose our way. But in the arrangement of the letters and in the beauty of their shape, we show some inspiration ourselves. Two men were on top of a minaret. They bet each other they wouldn't jump over the edge. One of them accepted and leaped off. But as he was falling, the other said, "Hey, you are cheating. I didn't say you could stop." So the first one flew back up to the top of the minaret again.
Once a month, the first Mrs. Rezvan invites mullahs to perform a rosé, and the martyrdom of the Shia imams is recalled.
امام حسین رو دعوت کردن کوفه، آمدن وارد کربلا شدن، آب که به امام حسین
Their suffering is evoked through recitation. He and his followers were surrounded in force by their opponents. Imam Hussein was killed. His body was pierced with arrows. His head was cut off. The sand ran with his blood.
پیشانه مقدس امام حسین شکسته، خون بیرون میاد. قلب امام حسین تیر خورده، مثل ناودان داره خون میاد. تیرها بر بدن مقدس امام حسین وارد شده، خون میاد. خیلی ضعف بر امام حسین غلبه پیدا کرده. یه زمانهایی داره، امیدوارم ناله‌های عاشقانه، زمزمه‌های عاشقانه و همین زودی زود کنار قبر امام حسین کربلا انشاءالله بلند بشه. ای خاک کربلا تو بشو مرهم ضرر.
O Hussein, your enemy killed you, but your light is still shining. Yes, the light of God does not vanish. The light of God does not vanish.
ای خاک کربلا تو به من مادری نمار، چون نیست مادری تو به من یاوری نمار. آمدند را به امام حسین رو گرفتن، شمشیر دار شمشیر میزنه، نیزه دار نیزه میزنه. حلال میگه دیدم لبان امام حسین بهم میخوره. گفت برگرد حسین رو سیراب کردم، ظالم سر بریدن بدن لرزیدن نداره. دادن حلال دست از سرم بردار، یه صدای نالی به گوشم میرسید، ای صدا میزد ای غریب مادر حسین.
In the 10th century, an army in the northern mountains of Iran prepared to march on the orthodox Sunni rulers in distant Baghdad. Poverty had driven them to enlist as soldiers of fortune. But now, united by their Shia beliefs, they combined religious zeal with a demand for political power. The Buyids had a tradition of independence. Their ancestors were among the few who did not submit to Alexander the Great. Sometimes Persian kings had enlisted the support of these professional warriors. The Buyid revolt marked a continuing move in Islam for political power separate from the caliphate. 9th and 10th centuries witnessed a remarkable Persian revival, whose focal point was once again the province of Khorasan. This tomb tower stands as a memorial to the dynasties which, though short-lived, induced a flowering of Persian Islamic culture and thought. But this culture had to be expressed through a new language, part Arabic, part Persian, which was refined by the great poet Firdausi in his epic Book of Kings, the Shahnameh.
لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. كذلك الله ربي آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وبالآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار.
And so, one word is the spiritual core of 25 years of work. A new courtyard designed by Mr. Rezvan and interpreted by 250 craftsmen.
People will look at my work, but they won't know me. Yes, I want people to see that I'm an artist, that I can create beauty. And when I design the decoration for such a holy place, I want to make it more and more beautiful. My favorite part is this Ivan. It combines the best design with the most perfect craftsmanship. My real wish is that in my lifetime I could travel to Spain, to China, to Turkey, to India, anywhere that Islam has influenced. I would study all the Islamic art, study with my own eyes, and then create in the name of God a sample which encompasses all these arts and styles.
So, as we've seen, the national identity survived the Arab onslaught and eventually reasserted itself. But what had been gained and lost on the way? Let's analyze that for a moment with Professor Dick Fry and Dr. Eden Nabi. Dick, you've described this period, the period after the Arab conquests, as a golden age of Persia. And at the same time, another author's described it as 2 centuries of oblivion. Why could you be so positive about it?
The Arab conquest opened up a new age for Persia, which might be called the Golden Age for the following reasons. That nothing in the history of this land has changed this land so much as the coming of Islam. The overwhelming influence of Arabic so changed the Persian language that it produced the flowering of new Persian literature. The great poets that we know, I think, would have been rather impossible without the tremendous Arabic influence in Persia. Let me say about the language, that I think that Persian without Arabic would be comparable to English without French and Latin. I really think that the Persians made of the religion and the culture which the Arabs brought to Iran a world culture. They used it and expanded it infinitely to make of Islamic culture and civilization not just a culture and civilization bound to the desert, to the mores of the Arab Bedouin, but made it international.
Eden, do you agree with that golden picture of the impact of the Arabs?
What is so golden about it? You're talking about what the Iranians themselves, what the Persians specifically contributed to Arabic in terms of writers and so forth and spreading Islam. But what is it that makes this a golden age for Iran? Iran, first of all, was not independent. It was a part of a world Islamic political state. It was part of a world Islamic culture. What was so Persian about it, to be so golden Persian?
Right, well then let's try and draw up a balance sheet, if we could. First of all, on the credit side.
On the credit side, the Iranian rulers had regained political control of most of Iran. The Iranian scholars who had accepted Islam in the course of the first few decades had been able to participate in a developing world civilization that extended far wider and was deeper and more extensive, in many ways far richer than the unitary Iranian civilization that they had participated in before. What was lost was a sense of continuity in the state, a religion which had been important in Iranian life for centuries, a sense of, if you will, national purity.
Show me any other period in the whole history of Iran, whether it's pre-Islamic or down to the present, where you had such a flowering, intellectual, cultural, in almost every field except one, perhaps military power and political authority.
The benefits which Islam and the Arabs brought to Iran are disputed, but the two cultures, Persian and Muslim, are irrevocably intertwined. Every afternoon, Mr. Rezvan performs his ritual ablutions.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أنزلناه في ليلة القدر وما أدراك ما ليلة القدر ليلة القدر خير من ألف شهر تنزل الملائكة والروح فيها بإذن ربهم من كل أمر سلام هي حتى مطلع الفجر.
It is the holy month of Muharram, when the Shias fast all day and mourn their martyred leaders.
ای گل خوشبو رضا ای گل
people called to Ali, the first Imam, and to Reza, the 8th Imam, who they believe was poisoned.
تمام و شرمنده ایم غرق گناه آمدیم ز ملک مازندران ز ملک مازندران این همه راه آمدیم پناه راه آمدیم گناه ما را ببخش به حق یا او رضا رضا جان رضا جان رضا جان رضا جان غریب خراسان رضا جان رضا جان شهید خراسان رضا جان رضا جان تو را قسم میدهم تو را قسم میدهم جان امام جواد حق امام دهم حق امام دهم هادی هاشم جان به حرمت عسکری السلام علیک ابن فاطمه الزهرا سیدت نساء العالمین.
The tomb of Imam Reza lies beyond this grill at the heart of the shrine.
السلام علیک یا معین الضعفاء و الفقراء السلطان ابوالحسن علی ابن
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر كبيرا والتوفيق لما دعا إليه من سبيله اللهم إنك أكرم مقصود وأكرم مأتي وقد أتيتك يا إلهي متقربا إليك بابن بنت نبيك محمد صلواتك عليه وآله صراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد
السلام عليك يا حجة الله على خلقه السلام عليك يا إمام الهدى والعروة الوثقى ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام عليك
بسم الله وبالله وفي سبيل الله الحمد لله على هدايته ورحمة الله
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى
اللهم صل على محمد